Blog Talk Radio.
Are you ready? The champ is here! It's just a man! Give me a hell yeah! What the rock is cooking? To be the man, you have to be the man! Big bubble pump! And you're hooked up!
Falling!
In the air! Woo, woo, woo! Cup of coffee in the big game.
It's Sunday night. It's 4th of July weekend, and you know what that means. Famcast Media probably brings to you the latest edition of Work in the Marks. Yes, folks, I am New Jersey's premier journalist, most handsome journalist, Fernando Uribe here, and he is New Jersey's premier wrestling analyst, Enrico Palazzo. Folks, on this not just holiday weekend to celebrate the 247th birthday of the USA, but also the birthday of Bret the Hitman Hart. I'm rocking that pink, representing, as we all wish here, a very happy birthday to Bret the Hitman Hart, WWE Hall of Famer. We love you, Bret. And yeah. So Enrico, how are you? Happy 4th of July weekend.
Oh, I'm swell. Who's the picture of that old lady in the background that you took there? I can't make that out very well.
That was me meeting Bret the Hitman Hart.
Is that one of your exes or no?
Yeah, well, yeah. Okay.
Well, you're not dating women your age, so, come on, man. We already know.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, to be honest, but
it's Bret Hart's birthday. Tomorrow's the better birthday. It's the birthday of the Rivera twins, Charlie and Judah. So
that is correct.
That's clearly the better birthday. That's the best birthday there is, the best birthday there was, and the best birthday there ever will be.
Hey, Uncle Fernando sends them a very happy birthday.
Who said you're an uncle? You shouldn't even be allowed within a school zone, all right? Yeah, like, can you even get close to a fucking schoolyard?
You must have me confused with somebody else.
By the way, you're not the most handsome journalist. I think it's John Highness.
The walking weapon, John Highness.
Yo, that guy, man, always looking frickin' fresh, with the fucking shaped up fucking beard, not this Pedro Pascal thing I got going on.
Always, bro. He's got that. It's always fresh cut with John. Folks, again, check us out on all our social media platforms. Sharing is caring. Takes 2 seconds to click that share button. And you know what? Whatever it is you're doing on this potentially rainy Sunday night here, we appreciate you tuning in from wherever and however you may be doing so tonight on StreamYard, via Facebook Live, and of course on Famcast Media. Pat, loaded weekend of professional wrestling. Let's get right to it here, man. I gotta tell you, Money in the Bank, it's been a great standalone PLE since its inception, and I believe in 2000 and I think 10, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that's when it was first a standalone PLE. But man, last night, top to bottom, what a great show! Nicely produced, pretty compact. 3 hours, and I think, just look at my notes here, I think 15 minutes. Good show again, emanating from the O2 in London. Listen, I don't think we have to go match by match, but what were some of your highs and lows from yesterday?
Okay, so, man, I feel like there's a lot to unpack because we didn't talk about Forbidden Door, right? We didn't talk about any of that shit that went on with that. But since we're gonna talk about Money in the Bank real quick, we'll get
the AEW stuff in a moment. We'll get the AEW stuff.
Okay. Well, I'll just include it. I think everybody that's watching right now, you've all watched it. There's no spoilers. There's nothing that you're gonna not know. But basically, Money in the Bank was really good yesterday. The big things that really, really stood out to me, obviously the main event, the emotion, the drama, everything about it. The crowd was so hot. The crowd was so into it. The crowd interaction with Roman was off the chain. The English people using their football chants, chanting stand up if you hate Roman. And then Roman noticeably sits down on the apron while the fans are singing that, which I thought was just top-notch crowd interaction. People even went as far as taking their shoes off, Professor. There was even a take a shoes off if you hate Roman chant. All right,
That's
folks? That's how intense, that's how built up, that's the level of stardom we're talking about here, okay? This is how good this shit is. And notice the biggest part of this all, nobody had to get dropped on their head in the main event. Nobody had
That's
to
right.
get dropped on their head in the card. Well, Logan Paul did, but more on that later. But the main event was outstanding. I thought the Usos getting the win. The long-term storytelling with Jey Uso being the guy to first pin Roman, and now being the guy to first pin Roman again after 3 years undefeated, I just think is absolutely amazing. So that stood out. The ladder matches I thought were excellent. I really, really enjoyed the men's ladder match. Obviously, big win for Puerto Rico's own, New York City's own, Damian Priest. Nice to see him get the win. Now, I was obviously rooting for Logan Paul because I love to see the outrage online. A lot of people, yourself included, were rooting for LaKnight. LaKnight, this is the rhythm of LaKnight. LaKnight.
Yeah.
You're rooting for LaKnight. But, unfortunately, LaKnight didn't capture the case. Logan Paul didn't capture the case. And Logan Paul almost had a pretty nasty spill there that could have been a lot worse than what it was. It was pretty gross, but nonetheless, it could have been a lot worse. He could have landed on the top of his head, but he got tangled up. They didn't really reset very well. Ricochet did because, bro, Ricochet is an amazing talent. I mean, I know a lot of people talk about Will Ospreay being one of the best flyers, if not the best flyer. I'm sorry, bro, but Ricochet's in the conversation. The guy's an animal. The guy's a fucking animal, okay? Yep. But Ricochet was able to get set. Logan could not. As they went to make their flip into the Spanish fly, Logan didn't flip because he wasn't able to catch his footing. Ended up hitting his head on the table as well as cutting his shoulder. Thankfully, Logan wasn't hurt seriously. Thankfully, Ricochet wasn't hurt seriously. Both men were okay. But definitely a close call on that matchup. That match was filled top to bottom with great high spots. I thought everybody shined. It looked like everybody could have won it at one point or another. Butch looked awesome. And then the women's match, I mean, what a creative ending, man. Io handcuffing Bayley and Becky to each other, climbing over Bayley to get to the top and to get that briefcase.
I was super happy.
Yeah, happy to see it. Very well deserved.
I was super happy to see Io win. I've been a mark for her for a while. Love her theme song. I think it's one of the better theme songs.
She's a babe.
Yes, definitely. Listen, she can have my child. You can garnish my wages. I'll set up visitation schedule. That's fine. Io Sky.
Hey, Fern. Obviously, with Io winning the briefcase, that's proof that Vince is booking, right? Because Io would have just been a Vince McMahon girl, right?
Well, listen, speaking of that,
if Vince was booking, we know Trish would have won the fucking match. Let's be real, or Becky.
Well, speaking of which, obviously, since you're opening the door, let's walk through it here. A couple of things, and we talked about it off the air, I think, in detail the last 48 hours. Man, the thing about LA Knight, and again, I've been a fan of his going back to his Impact days as Eli Drake. I think he's always been a good talker, per se. A little bit of a different persona in Impact when he was Eli Drake. Some of the same mannerisms, per se, but been a good worker. He is 40. Does have some mileage on him, but I mean, obviously, maybe not as much as others. I just think the interesting dynamic about LA Knight is that he's so over. You could tell the pop for him in that building was crazy yesterday, as it's been for many, many weeks now. Different venues on Raw and SmackDown. And I think there's like this ongoing debate with marks online or people that are watching pro wrestling that are just sort of looking at, where does LA Knight stand right now in the sense of like, what's his positioning? Is he a face? He's getting cheered like a face. Is he a tweener? I think tweeners mean different things for different people. I think the way we're going to conceptualize the definition, I would just say that, listen, people are still behind him not winning the briefcase. I think there was a lot of ongoing debate right online where, hey, maybe there's an internal battle. Vince wants Logan Paul. Paul wants, LA Knight. And maybe this was the compromise. Or maybe it was just a way to swerve us. It wasn't the only swerve of the evening. More on that in a minute. But I think Damian Priest is a good pick for the briefcase. My concern, though, man, is that Judgment Day is still pretty hot. I don't want to break up that group just yet. And you start to see the seeds being planted between Finn Balor and Priest, obviously. I don't know, man. I'm just like, not a bad choice. I still think there's a good ceiling for LA Knight because he's really over. And it's not like the end of the world where it's not listen, 4 weeks from now, exactly 4 weeks from now, it's not like he's not going to cruise into SummerSlam and have a match that fans are going to be interested in. And they're going to be. Now, who he's going to challenge remains to be seen. We've talked about off the air. I think a guy like Austin Theory, who's great heel, young kid, good worker, has got his character work better than it was at this time last year. But the bottom line is that I think his time, holding the coveted United States Heavyweight Championship, I think is coming to a close. Maybe putting on LA Knight wouldn't be a bad thing, kind of freshens it up a little bit. It keeps Knight, I think, still in the peripheral of like, hey, that talent that's over, that metrics, maybe t-shirt sales, whatever. Again, I'm not overly disappointed he didn't win the briefcase. I think that building was ready to explode, as you could tell when he was climbing the ladder. He literally was about to grab it. You could tell that building was about to explode. But it's not the end of the world. I think marks, like a lot of things, tend to sort of manufacture a lot of outrage about like, oh my God, this is the end of LA Knight. This is the doom and gloom. I disagree. I still think there's a lot of room for LA Knight to continue growing. And you saw that. You saw Triple H didn't have to say what he had to say at the press conference. He didn't have to say that. He doesn't have to appease any marks online. But I think that even he could see the tea leaves. Like, you know what? This guy's over, but there's still a lot to be accomplished. I think fans got to calm down, though.
I'm with you, man. I think that there's a lot of people that are digging LA Knight, and that's cool. They're interacting with him very, very well.
I know you don't, because the marks like him. I know you don't.
I respect him. I respect him. I respect the talent, but I'm not really digging that the marks like him so much.
Exactly.
I always kind of sour on that because they're wrong. They're wrong. Most of the time, they are wrong, okay? And if you need any further proof, look at AEW, okay? Because all the marks went along with every decision that was made there. We see where the product is now, okay?
More on that later.
WWE keeps the crowd engaged. They do it very, very well. They see what they have with LA Knight, right? They see what's available to them, and I think they also understand that he hasn't really been through a lot. And I know this gets thrown around a lot, but you have to understand this is a TV show. Whether people like to admit it or not, it's a TV show. It's never going to go back to being the territories. Kayfabe is not coming back. None of that shit's coming back. This is the modern way to tell pro wrestling stories, okay? This is the modern way. This is the blueprint. Tony Khan should be following what WWE is doing. He can still book his fucking, disaster matches and all that other shit. He could do all that shit. That's great. Do that. But have it make some sense and get people invested. You know what I'm saying? Follow Vince McMahon's blueprint and Paul Levesque's blueprint because they know what they're doing. Getting back to LA Knight, I think that he has a high ceiling. I think that him feuding with Theory would be good. Theory, I remember last year we talked about, when he won the case, I wasn't feeling it. I thought it was too soon. I don't think that there was enough character development with him. People are not invested in him like the way they are with Sammy and Kevin, like the way they are with the Bloodline. You know what I mean? They're not invested with those guys. LA Knight has that going for him, but LA Knight kind of has to go through some shit before he can really get the crowd to rally behind him. And I think giving him a payoff like him in Theory for the U.S. title, for the secondary belt, the U.S. title, obviously doesn't have the prestige the Intercontinental title does.
Correct.
But, having him feud with him, two guys that are kind of, one's on the verge of getting over really huge and the other one's kind of just there, I think that makes some good sense. So let's see what happens there.
No, and also, too, not to sort of make this a whole LA Knight dissection, but, this is the thing. We've talked about off the air where his character is weird because, again, he's getting those face pops. He still acts like a heel. Aside from Money in the Bank, the match itself, it's no disqualification. Heels and baby faces are going to do whatever they need to do to win the match. So it's not, I don't think I don't really focus on that per se. I focus on like the qualifying match to get into the match itself for Money in the Bank. Every other week, attacking Ray, doing some underhanded things. He's still getting a good response. Yeah. My thing about his character work is if you're going to be a tweener, if you're going to be that guy that kind of walks the line, not really a heel.
He's not a tweener though, Fern. He's not a tweener though. He's a face. He's a face, and they just solidified that. They just understood that now. You know what I'm saying?
No, okay, that's fine. But the character work this is my thing, where if he's going to be that outspoken, loudmouth, maybe anti-hero character, which we've seen before, okay? This is nothing new. This is not supernatural. However, again, you're the artist, you're the more creative of this team here. I just think there's only so many ways to skin a cat. And if you're going to be the anti-hero and you're going to be outspoken and a loudmouth, you're going to cut a promo and call out this guy and call out that guy, like, yes, I get it. It's being Austin-esque. It's being Rock-esque. There's only so many ways you can reinvent an anti-hero. And I get what you're going to say, hey, Fernando, be creative. I get all that. But an anti-hero, bro, it's kind of hard because the essence of an anti-hero is, in that sense, like there are things about you that are likable. There are things about you that are unlikable. But you find a way to resonate with the audience. And if you're going to be outspoken and on the mic and all that, I don't know what else he can do to be different. Again, if you're going to be an anti-hero, bro, again, the definition of an anti-hero is Stone Cold Steve Austin. Basically, that's what we grew up with. Same thing with The Rock. How do you reinvent that and get a little bit different? Okay, he's got different catchphrases. Let me talk to you. Whether or not that's a question or a regular sentence remains to be seen. The catchphrase, the crowd is saying, yeah, okay, that's over. How he's going to change his delivery, though, dude, because I know we've talked about this. It's like, there's only, again, like, how do you fine-tune the anti-hero? It's kind of hard, dude. I don't know if...
I think he might be frozen.
Okay, maybe. He might be frozen. Okay, I don't know. We'll give it a second there. Okay. Folks, again, if you just joined us right now, it's a live edition here of Working the Marks via Famcast Media. We're having some technical difficulties at the moment. Just bear with us, folks. It's high-speed internet. It's raining outside. It's cloudy. Maybe some thunderstorms are coming. You know how it is. Verizon Fios, AT&T, and all these other high-speed providers. So just bear with us, folks, here as we're going to have my tag team partner back on the air in moments. So just, bear with us. Folks, again, sharing is caring. Don't forget to subscribe to Working the Marks. Click that subscribe button on YouTube. It takes 2 seconds. I'm sure you subscribe to a whole plethora of podcasts. What's one more with Working the Marks via Famcast Media? Of course, follow us on Instagram, also on Twitter, as well as on Facebook. Dee, do we also have a Twitch page as well? I mean, I'm just trying to make sure.
Yeah, there's also a Twitch page as well. It's still Working the Marks.
Okay, so again, folks, there's tons of stuff there. All right, so as we're getting my tag team partner back on the air here, and again, folks, if you're wondering why I'm rocking the pink here, folks, we got to celebrate the birthday of one of Canada's greatest heroes, Bret the Hitman Hart, as he celebrates a birthday today. Let me just see, D, real quick here, what the birthday is for Bret Hart. What milestone birthday it might be. Let's see here. He is 66 years old today. So God bless Bret Hart. And of course, one of the reasons to listen, let's be honest. All right. Growing up, if you love Bret Hart, he found a way to give you the courage to wear pink in public. And as a man, you can rock it. And again, for those of you that follow me on social media, I love wearing rocking pink. You know what I'm saying? So, the second greatest, well, as long as the first isn't Kenny Omega, I mean, I think I'll be okay. So thanks to Lewis there for checking out the show. And again, we appreciate your devotion and your watching, man. So thank you for that. And folks, again, it's the 4th of July weekend. Certainly not just Bret Hart's birthday, but, it's, wow, Edge. Lewis, I don't know, man. I think fans of Chris Benoit might take exception to that. I don't know, dude.
I would have said Christian.
What's that? Well, listen, I appreciate Lewis tuning in there. And
hey, I'm back. Sorry, man. We had a power outage.
Okay.
I had a power outage over here, so everything just went out for a second, came right back.
You might have to lower the volume, Pat. I don't know. I think it's a little echoey.
No, I'm just Hispanic.
Okay. I'm not sure how much you caught of the last part of the monologue.
You were talking about what's his name, LA Knight being an anti-hero, and what you were saying
I mean, again, dude, it's hard because like what we've come to grow up with in terms of the anti-hero, like the first name that comes to mind, because that was the first real anti-hero we saw in pro wrestling, at least in our adult lives, and that was Stone Cold Steve Austin. So I get it. There's this perception, oh, well, LA Knight's too Stone Cold-ish or rockish. I get all that.
Right.
Like I said, dude, there's only so many ways to skin a cat. How you fine-tune an anti-hero, I mean, it's hard. If that's what the character you're going for. An anti-hero, again, there's going to be similarities. But if he's standing out with his own catchphrase, whether he's asking a question or just verbalizing a complete sentence, I don't know. But it's hard, man. I mean, if you're going to be that anti-hero guy, how you fine-tune that? I mean, you're the artist, man. You're the more creative of this team.
Well, I don't know. I think that's debatable. You're pretty creative with some of the things you come up with on your other program. But, you know, that's a conversation for another time. I'll tell you what. Let me paint a picture for you. Let me talk to you.
Let me talk to
you. Batman, right? Batman. How many times have you seen Batman in a movie? A lot of times, right? A lot of times. And each of those Batmen were different, but also similar in their own way, right?
Sure.
Well, it's the same thing with being a fucking anti-hero. You can kind of be similar in a certain way, but you also have to be different. And you also have to kind of stand out. You know what I'm saying? At times, John Cena, although was a white meat babyface, they tried to make him a badass. You remember the early days of Cena, where he was a babyface, but he would act like a badass. And he would kind of try to do anti-hero-ish type of things that were somewhat similar to Austin in that regard, right? And it didn't really work. It didn't stick because John Cena was not that kind of babyface, right? LA Knight, I think, has potential to do something really cool, but he needs to kind of come up with something. The let me talk to you thing, I think, is cool. You know what I'm saying? Whether, punctuation, that's something else. We had discussed that. But the let me talk to you thing is cool. The yeah thing is cool. Some of the other elements are very similar to The Rock and very similar to Steve Austin. And I get that some fans like that because that's comforting, but I just want to see something different, man. I just want to see somebody be creative and challenge themselves in another way to kind of leave their mark on the business, man. If everybody kind of just did the same fucking thing, we wouldn't really be, the business would stay the same. It wouldn't evolve. It wouldn't continue. It wouldn't grow. You needed that different iteration of that baby face, of that anti-hero, of that heel. You needed that different thing. And I think a little too often in this generation specifically, we see a lot of young talent that, and even some of the older talent, that try to act like wrestlers from the past. I don't think that shit's cool. Doing all of Ric Flair's moves, doing all of Bret Hart's moves, doing all of Shawn Michaels' moves, all that shit ain't cool. You could borrow from people, you could do your thing, but you could also be very fucking original. And what I'd like to see more of from LA Knight is him being original and not just relying on the same old fucking shtick. Because I'll tell you right now, that shit is going to get tired soon. Okay? At one point, you could say that Elias was as over as LA Knight is over right now. Okay? At one point, people were interacting with Elias like the way they did with LA Knight.
Yeah.
And we could go through the list of a ton of fucking gimmick acts, goofy gimmick acts that came up from NXT that the people were with. Fucking Rusev Day was as over as LA Knight is right now.
What?
So
That's right.
Let's kind of tame our expectations. Let's temper our expectations a little bit. Let's kind of dial it back. And like the great visionary Jean-Paul Levesque said, let's see where this goes. Let's follow the journey and let's enjoy it.
Definitely. And again, with a month away to SummerSlam, I'm sure, I'll be eager to see where Ellie and I will be on the card. And again, like leading up to that, what the responses will be at arenas. Some other notes I think of importance during Money in the Bank, though, Patrick, Enrico, sorry. Interesting swerve for us during the women's tag team title match. Obviously, Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey defending the coveted women's tag team championships against Liv Morgan and Raquel Gonzalez. And listen, I think you know how I feel about Ronda Rousey. 5 years,
yes.
5 years in. A little bit about my rant about Ronda in a moment, but complete surprise to see Shayna turn on Ronda. Obviously, you're always skeptical when you see the news today where, as reported by Dave Meltzer, that's when I stopped reading anything really, indicating that apparently Rousey's time with WWE might be coming to an end contractually. She did want to team up with Shayna and then eventually feud with her. Right. This might be a way to sort of maybe write her off television. Who knows? Contractually, what her situation might be. She may be done by the end of the summer. I just got to say, when Shayna turned on her, that was a huge pop. You know how I feel about Ronda Rousey. I was there in Philadelphia. Thankfully, I was able to get a tetanus shot at the urgent care the next day after leaving that shithole at the first ever Women's Royal Rumble match. And when Ronda first appeared, yeah, good pop for her. A big mainstream MMA star. Obviously, a woman who sold buy rates like crazy on pay-per-view. Listen, multiple-time women's champion, headline WrestleMania as a main event in 2019. I don't know, man. When Shayna turned on her, I mean, again, not that Shayna's not a charisma vacuum either, but in my opinion, that crowd was hot for that angle. Nice to see Liv and Raquel regain the coveted WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. Listen, if it's Shayna and Ronda at SummerSlam at Ford Field in Detroit, great, cool. If it's a way to help out Shayna and elevate her, awesome. I mean, I'm not going to miss Ronda Rousey if she's written off television, but that's me, you know.
You forgot a few accolades for Ronda. The first woman to headline a UFC pay-per-view. The first, also a judo Olympian, silver medalist, by the way. I'd like to add. So let me just throw that in there too, because you forgot a few accolades. You know, Ronda's kind of a big deal. I know it's a little overwhelming for you, but Ronda's a bit of a big deal.
Yeah, I'm not disputing that. Okay.
All right. Relax, Skip. You know, it's okay. Take it easy. You know, I'm gonna be Shannon. You know, but I gotta say, like, I saw this coming. I knew it was coming. It was reported for a while. This is what Ronda's wanted to do. It seems like Ronda and Becky don't really want to work together, or maybe Becky wants to work with her, but Ronda doesn't. You know what I'm saying? I think there's a little something there.
It's called women being catty.
All right, bro. Like, why you always got to throw that in there, bro? How about it's just people being people? People are assholes. There's men that are equally as fucking catty. All right, bro.
I don't know any.
Damn, homie. Like, come on. You got to shit on women all the time. Take it easy.
But bro, I don't know any. But women being catty is not supernatural. It's not.
All right, men being catty is also not supernatural. Hello, you got a picture of a catty old woman in the background there that was catty with another old woman across our. Shawn Michaels and him, you know, they don't get along now. Like, come on, man. Them motherfuckers are catty as fuck. It ain't just limited to women. But the thing about Ronda is, you know, Ronda has done a lot of good, man, with the time that she's had in WWE. She put over Liv, all right? She didn't have to do that shit. She wanted to do that shit, okay? And not only did she put over Liv, but she saw that the tag titles were kind of dying. She brought him to relevancy. She wanted a team with Shayna. That's always been a dream of the both of them because they're both, you know, great friends for a long time. That was inevitable that they were going to split up. I'm going to love the feud. I think it's going to be amazing. As a guy who appreciates really great technical submission wrestling, catch wrestling, they're going to put on a clinic, and it's going to be really, really awesome, and I look forward to it. I want to see some real good, serious emotion out of the both of them. I think that could really add to it a lot. And I got to say, man, I just respect Ronda a fuck ton, man. Not only for what she's done for combat sports as a whole, but for what she's doing in the business with her star, how she's elevating people, how she helps sell that main event at WrestleMania, okay? Becky was huge. Becky was a big part of that, but it was Becky and Ronda. Charlotte had to step in there because those two weren't even really on the same kind of terms at that point in time. That's fine. All three women are historic. All three women are three of the best ever. They deserve their credit. But Ronda Rousey, man, this is a woman that don't get her flowers enough for the things that she does for the women's division and for what she's done for combat sports as a whole, man. I know you're not a fan. Acknowledge her. Acknowledge her. If Roman's the one for the men, she's the one for the women. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, Pat.
Straight up.
Listen, Enrico, all your points are well taken. They're all solid. Again, I just think that when you look at over time, I guess, listen, working in the same era or time span as Becky, who got super over during that same time frame that she was, in WWE, I think was one of those things that's just sort of like wrong place, wrong time. Yes, she was part of that historic women's main event in 2019. But since then, for whatever reason, Becky has just sort of been like that mainstay on the division, even though she took a maternity leave. She's still super over. Charlotte, for as much as I think Mark's critique, oh, here we go, another title reign. She's eventually going to reach 20. Who knows? I just think that, part of my, not dislike, I think part of my indifference about Ronda is that other than, again, the good work she's done, putting certain talent over, being that mainstream star that gets eyes on the product. She's an iconic name. So she's going to get people to watch WWE because of her. I'm not oblivious to this. I'm not like the marks on AEW group chats on Facebook, which Dee can attest to, which we all know there's an infestation of online. I just think that, again, if this is the way the end of her contract is going to turn out, she wants to help elevate Shayna. And again, listen, dude, Shayna's a badass woman. If I saw that woman walking 5 blocks down the street, I'd fucking make sure I go down the other end of the street. I mean, she's a badass. There's no question. I just think it's a match that, you're right, there'll be some emotion to it, betrayal, who knows, other dynamics will make that match. It's not something I'm super looking forward to for SummerSlam. I'll watch it because it's on, but I'm not like blown away per se. I mean, I think I'm very much, if it's Becky and Bayley at SummerSlam, that match kind of interests me more, or whoever Io is challenging, whether for the coveted women's championship or the women's world heavyweight championship. Those are matches I think at SummerSlam in the women's division. I think that'll capture my eye more, but that's just me.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fair. I just think that you're a little unfair in your dislike of Ronda. And I think that Ronda as a talent is a lot better than a lot of the guys that are there, including a vast majority of the guys in AEW. And we just had a comment there. Dee, could we bring that back up from Lewis? He said, Charlotte's the greatest female wrestler of all time. She's so good. Sex doesn't matter anymore. Sex does matter. Charlotte is already better than 99% of AEW. Well, that's my bro Lewis right there. And Lewis is right. Charlotte is, I don't think the greatest, one of the best. I think Becky's better than her. I think Becky's a better worker than her, personally. I think Kana-chan, fucking, Asuka is a better worker than the both of them. But obviously, she does what she can with her promo ability. But it's true. She's better. She's definitely better than 99% of the people in AEW. She's a bigger name. Danielson certainly is that 1%. That's the GOAT right there.
Yeah.
But I just think that, as far as it goes with Ronda, man, I think we need to appreciate her. I think she's going to stick around. I think she's going to re-sign a deal. I know a lot of the marks gave her grief about how she chose to handle her time away from the business. Again, people, they're human beings. They have lives. Yep. They have things that they want to do. They're going to do it. They'll come back to you. And when they do, appreciate them while they're here. Yep. For all the people that complain about Rome and everybody else, appreciate them, man. Appreciate them, man, because this shit flies by. You know what I'm saying? But
absolutely.
On that note, appreciate Ronda, Fernando. That's all I got to say.
No, listen,
right?
I do. I just, again, it's not my brand of vodka, but listen, all your points are well taken. And other elements of the PLE last night. Interesting, though, that match between Cody and Dominic, great match, I thought.
Yeah.
This is where the mark in me will come out. I just think that maybe Lesnar was like, fuck it. I don't feel like flying out to fucking London. We can still help build the potential SummerSlam match against Cody, the rubber match in the feud, right? Supposedly it's being alleged that it's going to be a bull rope match at SummerSlam. We'll see. Who knows? But a good match. I think Dominic continues to improve infinitely, as over as a heel as there is. I mean, the heat on Dominic is just, he's worked really hard and he does a great job of being unlikable. I think that's obviously bread and butter, right? The DNA of a heel. Doing good work with the Judgment Day. Cody still very over. It was just it's amazing to me as we celebrate the independence of the United States on Tuesday, 247 years, and there were Brits screaming for the American Nightmare and like singing a song, and I'm like, really, 4th of July weekend as we declare our independence from the tyranny of King George, And you got 18,000 Brits and maybe some Americans too, some Germans, some French, who knows. But the bottom line is you had 18,000 British people screaming for the American Nightmare during 4th of July weekend. I just thought that was kind of rich. But a good match. Was kind of hoping for Lesnar to show up maybe to start building up, but not the end of the world. Lesnar can show up on Monday here in North America where he doesn't have to fly out to England. I think it's fine. Also to the... Can
I interject on that for a second?
Sure.
I thought it was really funny too that Cody came out with the butcher's rag on the back there too. Like he didn't have the America flag, you know. He had the butcher's rag for you people that are not in the know. The butcher's rag is the Union Jack. Ask an Irish person about that. You know, they'll tell you all about it. But you know, it was funny seeing Cody get that kind of pop. I don't think they needed Brock. Obviously, they had John Cena there. I think John filled that Brock void because John is just, you know, is John Cena. And I love the match. I thought it was good. It was simple. It was to the point. A lot of people thought Dom would cheat to win. Cody is that guy. He's that upper echelon main event type guy. He's going to get that big win there. And I loved it. And Rhea was perfect ringside as always. She's gorgeous. And I was just really a big fan of the match. I loved it overall. Thought it was good stuff.
Again, a great PLE. The segment with Cena I thought was good. I thought it ran a little long, but again, it served its purpose in terms of helping to elevate Grayson Waller, who I think, bro, I love this guy. I think he's got a lot. He checks off a lot of boxes for me as a heel. I think that his character work is just continues to improve weekly. I don't know. Again, maybe you can give me more insight, Patrick, Enrico, about why he's doing so many segments. I don't know if he's healing from something.
He's healing, yeah. He's got an injured foot, I think, or an ankle or something.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I mean, again, I think these segments are great. Coming up this Friday at the world's most famous arena, the Cathedral of Professional Wrestling, the Mecca, Madison Square Garden. He'll be hosting the Grayson Waller Effect against WWE Hall of Famer Edge. We'll see who Edge's opponent for SummerSlam would be. Maybe it'll be Grayson Waller. Who knows? But it was a good segment for Cena. And more on like the significance of what Cena's announcement, or at least what his desire was in a moment as we get to the news cycle.
The length of the segment I thought was good, Fern. You know, I thought it was good because it was good crowd interaction. Yes. And for a guy like you who complains about commercials all the time, I thought that was a nice way to not have as many commercials. Did you notice that about that PLE? There was less commercials.
Yeah.
And they were advertising booze, your favorite beer, Bud Light.
I did see that, and it was interesting because I think there was a moment where Michael Cole mentioned something like, well, you know, for premium subscribers, I think you could see certain things, right? That I couldn't.
I don't know. I'm seeing spots. I don't know what I'm seeing. Okay, I don't know.
So
is that true? D, is that true? Is that a gimmick? Can we look that up somehow or something? Do we know that for a fact?
What?
Like that Peacock subscribers that pay $10 that aren't fucking cheapskates. That they see.
I only pay $1 and I saw it.
You saw the beer ads.
I saw the beer.
There was less ads last night, right? It wasn't just me. They were just advertising booze, which is a part of their strategy with them and Endeavor, that they're going to start advertising more like adult type shit instead of like snack foods and all that other bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, listen, if they start advertising AdamandEve.com, that'd be amazing too. You know, I mean, you know. But a good PLE. One other note about Money in the Bank as we move on to some AEW news, though. Nice to see, though, man, Natalya receiving 6 Guinness World Record certificates in the building last night. Apparently, representatives from Guinness, not the beer company, were in attendance to present Natalya with 6 world record certificates, as the records include most WWE matches by a female, with 1,514 matches. Most wins in WWE by a female with 663. Most WWE PLE / pay-per-view appearances by a female with 75. Most WrestleMania appearances by a female with 8. Most WWE Monday Night Raw matches with 174. And most WWE SmackDown matches by a female with a total of 200. Congratulations to Natalya Neidhart, again on a weekend where the Hart family is celebrated again with the 66th birthday of Bret the Hitman Hart. Nice to see Natalya get some recognition there as a very underrated female worker. Why are you rolling your eyes? She's an underrated worker flowers to Natalia.
I'm not rolling my eyes at Natty.
What's that?
I'm not rolling my eyes at Natty.
Oh, okay.
Big respect to Natty.
Big respect to Natty. Very underappreciated Natalia Neidhart when she first debuted in 2010 with the Hart Dynasty. You know, her husband Tyson Kidd and David Hart Smith. I marked out for that team in 2010 when they first debuted. Yeah, when they first debuted.
Wow.
What's that?
I don't believe that. No way.
Yeah, I know. When they first debuted, feuding against the Usos and Tamina Snuka, great debut for them in 2010. To see her 13 years later and how far she's come, and certainly how much of a mainstay and her longevity, her durability, I think it says a lot of it. Listen, her dad's Jim the Animal Neidhart. If there's anybody tough in wrestling we ever grew up watching, it was her father, the late great Jim the Animal Neidhart. So congrats to Natty. Great job by Guinness. Again, another pop culture mainstream news nugget that WWE continues to sort of accumulate.
What do you mean nugget? Why'd you say nugget? It's
well,
not a nugget. It's not a nugget. All right.
Well, it's certainly a check mark that reminds us all about how mainstream WWE continues to be, really, on a global stage. So good for her. Some other news, man. Let's get to some stuff here, which is really interesting. Man, it's funny about how, and even though we saw some things last night on Collision, the inclusion of the Gun Club into the Bullet Club.
Collision was on last night, right?
Yeah, I know, right? With Jay White and Juice Robinson, obviously including Austin and Colton Gunn into the Bullet Club, which I think works great for those two boys. I think that exposure, the marquee name of the Bullet Club, and again, as I was talking to Dee off the air before we went on, I think there's certain portions of Bullet Club. I know there's Bullet Club Gold, right, in Japan. I think that
Bullet Club Gold is in AEW.
Sorry.
Then there's Bullet Club. Then there's the one that's in Impact, right?
Yeah, it's only two guys because I know when Jay White was in Impact, he brought some people over with him when they initiated Chris Bay and Ace Austin into Bullet Club. I think they're still part of that. Obviously, introducing the Guns into Bullet Club, I think it's a win-win for them. I think it gives them more exposure. Yeah, I think it just rocking the T-shirt. I mean, New Japan's not going to complain. They're printing money with these T-shirts, but it's weird though, man, because we're seeing the numbers for Collision, and I haven't seen them for last night, but what a drop from the initial episode to last weekend's where it was 514,000 viewers. And we talked about this off the air, and I don't want to get sanctimonious on the air because that's not me, but I can't even say that. I really tried. Folks at home, I really tried.
Oh my God, that was great. That was
really
great.
tried. I really tried. But after the initial premiere, though, Pat, I think it's important to note that as much of an entity and a global brand that WWE is, I think the powers that be, Vince McMahon, Nick Khan, Paul Levesque, Endeavor, obviously now, I think they were smart enough to know that other than the reincarnations of Saturday Night's Main Event, which we grew up loving on NBC, it's hard to have pro wrestling on Saturday nights. And I think that for as smart as WWE is, even they know that, hey, we get a good audience on Mondays. We get a hell of an audience on Fridays on Fox. Even we're smart enough that aside from the PLE occasionally on a Saturday, which tends to be kind of the norm now, I think, for WWE, even they knew that, hey, as popular as we are and as much as we get content and engagement, putting wrestling on live on Saturdays is probably not weekly. It's not in our best interest. We're good Mondays. We're good Tuesdays. We're good on Fridays. I think that Tony Khan's gamble and experiment with Time Warner and Discovery, I think it's blown up in his face. I mean, these numbers look terrible. I mean, we're talking about, I don't even know what it was last night. But again, 4th of July weekend, People may be going away down the shore, New Jersey, going away on vacations in general. It's a holiday weekend. I cringe at what that number is going to be from last night. It's not released yet, but boy, I'm cringe. It almost feels that it's going to be cringe-worthy tomorrow morning when I'm sure that number's released.
Yeah, man, I'm sure it's not going to be good at all. I mean, it sucks because there's a couple of things happening that are like, all right, like, the guns. I mean, what good are bullets if you ain't got no guns, right? So I think that's a good little matchup there. We've been talking about that for a while. Obviously, the Click connections with his dad, everything else, it just all that stuff. It's fucking money. Unfortunately, I don't think did enough in their debut episode to really get people to want to come back and to want to see. There's nothing going on with Punk and FTR and the Elite. There's nothing like hot drawing people in. To be quite honest, I think that fans, including the hardcores that tune in for AEW, are mad at CM Punk. They're mad at the bullshit that's gone on. Some of it is his fault. Some of it isn't. Some of it's the Elite's fault. Some of it isn't. I think everybody is really to blame in that situation. Most of all, Tony Khan for not having fucking control over his company, getting these guys in the room and saying, hey, man, let's get this shit together and let's fucking get these ratings up because we got something here that people really want to see and they're interested in. And, I'm fucking tired of saying it every time I come on this show, but like, the dude, to quote CM Punk, keeps stepping on his own dick every fucking time. Any opportunity that this guy has to move up in the world, to do something, to get this company more recognition, to get people glued to the product, he always goes the opposite way. And we're seeing it again. And I just think that, their fans have Punk has kind of fallen out of favor with them. He's still a great performer, in my opinion. He's physically not what he once was. We all know that now. But his psychology, his promo abilities, they're fucking great, man. And I think under WWE, CM Punk would be really, really, really big again. And I think that with their production, with their agenting, with everything that they do, they would be able to take him and put him on par with Roman as an attraction and Cody and Sammy, Kevin, and all those other big guys that are there. So I
agree.
I just think that there's not enough sizzle, and there definitely ain't no fucking steak there. Okay, there ain't no steak there, and people are not inclined to tune into this program because they're not doing anything hot, and just wrestling ain't gonna fucking cut it.
And speaking of that, obviously one would suspect after Forbidden Door last Sunday that Dynamite on Wednesday and Collision and Rampage and Collision subsequently would follow up what, again, a lot of the marks that liked that pay-per-view, which again, I stayed up until 12:15 to watch. And I'm not going to break down what stood out for me about Forbidden Door, but I think it's still a serious problem though, dude. And we talked about it off the air during this week about what Forbidden Door represented. And notwithstanding the main event, which I think was classic storytelling, great ring psychology, what we saw is a couple of things. And I wrote this down in my notes. Number one, Forbidden Door for the second year in a row continues to be excessively long. I understand you're trying to give exposure to two companies. And the president of New Japan, I forgot his name. I know you're the aficionado. You can tell me.
I don't know his fucking name. I think they got sold to somebody else. But
obviously collaborating with Tony Khan, you want to get as much talent on the show as possible. You want to feature obviously the New Japan World Heavyweight Champion against Jungle Boy, Jack Perry. Obviously, you also you want to feature other talent on the show, and I hate to say that Forbidden Door should be 2 nights because Jesus, I don't know if we want that.
But what's wrong with that? Like I don't understand. Like whenever people say that, Mark's like get their knickers in a twist. Like I don't understand.
No, but that's fine for WWE. But when it's not good wrestling, when a lot of the show isn't good wrestling, you worry about it being 2 nights.
Well, but here's the problem, Fern, is that with big shows like that, and you know this because you were at the last single day WrestleMania. By the time you get to the matches that matter, by the time you get to the main event, you're fucking fatigued. Crowd fatigue is real. That's not phony baloney stuff. We're not talking fake news here.
It's funny you mentioned that because I remember in 2019, after Daniel Bryan fought Kofi Kingston and the elation of what that match represented, bro, it was a little deflating because Joe against Rey Mysterio for the coveted United States Heavyweight Championship, you could tell that crowd was a little tired after the emotional victory and how great that match was between Kofi and Daniel Bryan. And then the match after that, I believe it was like Finn Balor against Bobby Lashley for the coveted Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship. Like, you could tell the crowd was getting a little tired. And I think subsequently, for a show as long as that was, and that was about almost 8.5 hours. I remember walking into the building at 4:15 p.m. Eastern time and leaving at 12:40 in the morning Sunday.
Jesus.
It was crazy. Yeah, it was crazy. I think the dynamic about Forbidden Door was once you had that, and to use your great quote from the week, the video game match that was Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega, where it was like 35 false finishes, 27 finishers. You were waiting for someone to get shanked, set on fire. It was almost like watching Peter Griffin and the Chicken. If you've ever watched Family Guy and you watch a compilation of Peter Griffin and the Chicken, like, watch the 5 fights that they've had. That's how excessive, like, Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega felt like. And I think that fans were drained after that. I mean, you had the tag team, you had the 6-man match of Jericho, Guevara, and Suzuki, right? I mean, it was like the crowd was exhausted. And then on top of that, you had to get to Okada and Bryan, which everyone was waiting for, which it was a classic. It was the match of the night, in my opinion. I just think that, a show like Forbidden Door is great. It incorporates a lot of stars, but they need to do something to condense that show because, again, it started at 7 and it went until about 12:15 in the morning. But I was exhausted at home. I can't imagine the people at the Nova Scotia, at the Scotia Bank Arena in Toronto that evening.
Well, yeah, dude. I mean, I think one of the biggest problems of the show is they do have to trim a lot of the fat, But again, Tony Khan, everybody's going to get a spot on the show. Not everybody deserves a fucking spot on the show, man. That's just life, man. That's just what it is. If you do not have something compelling that people want to watch, why are you eating up a spot?
That's the right thing to do, according to Anthony Khan. That's the right thing to do, man. Come on, bro.
Yeah, but the wrong thing to do is to take away from your main event and to fucking put your crowd in a sleeper hold, so that by the time that they get to the match that's supposed to put asses in the seat, people don't care no more. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't know. I get it, but there's a time and a place for that. Do 2 days, man. There ain't nothing wrong with 2 fucking days, bro. People talk all this shit about WrestleMania, but bro, WrestleMania's 2 days and it's great. Both days, you enjoy it. They're great. Obviously people are gonna have their gripes because what else is fucking new? But it's better to do it in 2 days if they can do that. Maybe do a New Japan show one day, New Japan USA show, and then do the AEW show the next day. That would be kind of cool. But yeah, the show could have done without a lot of that shit. For me, the matches, there was a few of them that were okay. I was not a fan of Ospreay and Omega. I wasn't a fan of it the first time. I get the whole strong style thing. I get the way they're trying to work. I understand that. I get that there's an homage to like 90s All Japan and just All Japan in general. But like, bro, that's not fucking wrestling. Like, purposely stiffing your opponent, doing this type of shit, that's not for me, man. Laying it in on forearms, laying it in on uppercuts, chops, shit like that. Working snug, but working safe, that's good. When you're dropping a dude on his fucking head and that's not even the finish, man, come on. You know what I'm saying? Come on, man.
I agree with you.
You look at that main event last night at Money in the Bank. Nobody had to get dropped on their fucking head in that match. All that shit was safe. But people were invested in the story.
Sure.
Kenny Omega is a fantastic wrestler. Will Ospreay is a fantastic wrestler. But what they're doing, bro, that's not wrestling, bro. That's a fucking video game match. That's like you and me playing fucking No Mercy, okay? Or playing fucking SmackDown, Bring the Pain, trying to win a fucking match, hitting 7,000 finishers, putting each other through a table, jumping off of this, jumping off of that, fighting backstage, doing all this other shit, and then losing to like a snap mare. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's fucking senseless, and that to me is not art. But speaking of art, Bryan Danielson versus Kazuchika Okada was fucking amazing. We got to hear the final countdown again. I fucking loved it. I marked out. Anybody who knows me knows what Bryan Danielson means to me, man. Knows what a huge influence he was on me and my cousin getting into the business. And, you know, it's just somebody that's just still so very well respected. And in my estimation, the greatest wrestler of his generation, just really going out there, doing his thing, making Okada tap out with a broken freaking arm, okay? Broke his fucking forearm in the middle of the fucking match.
Speaking of which, though, Enrico, speaking of which, what do your sources tell you about the severity of that injury, though?
Oh, dude, it's legit. Brie Bella posted it. I mean, he cracked his forearm like in half. Like, you know, so he's going to be out for like 6 to 8 weeks. I think that gives him enough time to get ready for doing whatever. If not, man, he don't have to do anything. I think he's going to end up going to Japan. He's probably going to see out the rest of his AEW commitments. But I think that eventually it's going to come a time where dude's going to get that contract to go back to WWE, to do the Hall of Fame, and he's going to do it. And it's what he deserves, man. But I love the match. I thought it was brilliant. They didn't have to kill each other to tell a fucking story. Unfortunately, something bad happened in the match. It is what it is. I think it's when Okada came down with the elbow drop off the top that he broke Danielson's forearm. Yeah. But, you know, accidents happen. At the end of the day, this dude was a total professional the entire time. Unfortunately, the crowd was completely fatigued. So I don't think that the crowd was as into it as they could have been. But, I mean, the match itself was perfect, bro. They told a great story. The pace was great. It looked like Danielson was going to lose. Then they swerved you. He's the first guy to make Okada tap out in 8 years, if I'm not mistaken. 8 years it's been since Okada has tapped out. And the last guy to do it was Shinsuke Nakamura.
That's right.
You know, that was really, for me, the match of the night. It's professional wrestling the way it fucking should be. And it's two high-level wrestlers doing their thing, showing the world how it's fucking done. And they didn't have to kill each other. They didn't have to drop each other on their fucking heads. They didn't have to do any of this senseless bullshit, this video game match bullshit. That's not fucking wrestling, people. That's going to shorten their fucking careers like it did to the people, like the wrestlers that did that shit in All Japan. So, sorry, folks, but that's just the fucking truth.
Speaking of shortening careers, and obviously relevant to Bryan Danielson, because of his injury, though, Patrick, Bryan Danielson will not be at Boston at the TD Garden in Boston on Wednesday, July the 19th, as AEW Dynamite will bring you Blood and Guts, where Jon Moxley this week on Dynamite issued the challenge to the Elite, and subsequently in what was expected to be a 5-man Blood and Guts match, again, sort of a deviation, the similarity to the original War Games match that was created by Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, in 1986, when he teamed up with Nikita Koloff and the Road Warriors and Precious Paul Ellering against the Horsemen and J.J. Dillon. Obviously, Jon Moxley and the Blackpool Combat Club, consisting of Wheeler Yuta, Claudio Castagnoli, and Konosuke Takeshita, will be facing the Elite in Blood and Guts on Wednesday night, July the 19th. This has shit show written all over it. The last two Blood and Guts matches have been shit shows. Yes, they're trying to pay homage to the original War Games with the double rings with the high sort of roof, as opposed to like the original War Games matches in the old NWE WCW, where I guess the roof of the cage was very low, as opposed to what it's been now the last 2 years. I mean, it's really, really high.
Well, the budget wasn't that good back then.
Exactly.
So, you know.
To now where basically it's Hell in a Cell. I mean, it's that high. So Blood and Guts will emanate from the TD Garden in Boston on Wednesday, July 19th. Apparently, Jon Moxley is hinting that this will end the feud between the BCC and the Elite on that Wednesday. I got to tell you, I'm going to watch to be entertained and to laugh, because it's going to be a shit show. And yep, Boston suck. I think that's going to be a shit show. Who wins that feud? Who wins that feud, Patrick? I don't know, dude. They're
I
amazing.
care. I don't care. I'm glad that Danielson's not going to be in that fucking match. He doesn't need to be. The last thing we need is for him to get hurt. So I'm glad he's missing out on that one. I mean, again, it's more of the same old shit, just doing old WCW gimmicks, marking out for other shit. You could use some stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. But, be creative, man. Just be creative. Stop trying to do this shit. This shit obviously doesn't work. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like they're waiting for something really fucking bad to happen. That's what I feel like AEW is waiting for. The more risks these guys keep taking, inevitably something fucked up's going to happen. So
I don't know. Absolutely. Speaking of fucked up things happening, Dave Meltzer.
It's going to be wicked had. It's going to be wicked had.
It's going to be wicked retarded in Boston. all the kids from Dorchester and Southie are going to be converging on TD Bank Garden.
I'm not a cop. I'm not a cop.
And they'll be talking about their cousin from Boston with some Sam Adams commercial, possibly. Speaking about fucked up things in wrestling, this week Dave Meltzer appeared on the Chris Van Vliet show, and apparently, we all know that the match rating system that Uncle Dave has implemented for years now inspires a lot of debate, Enrico. But apparently, some people have taken considerable umbrage, and this week Chris Van Vliet did that during a show with Uncle Dave, where Chris mentioned to Dave that he's never awarded a 5-star match to any of Kurt Angle's matches in the past. Where this past week he gave 5 stars to Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay, which now apparently Will Ospreay has the most 5-star matches according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter and Wrestling Observer Radio, with 28. I could be mistaken, but I think that's the number. And now the veteran wrestling journalist, and I use that word loosely, explained why. And he went to say that his match ratings tend to, quote, bring out the worst in some people. Additionally, he believes that there isn't much of a difference between 5-star matches and Angle's highest ranked efforts. Quote, people who get mad at a 1/4 star in a match from 30 years ago or 15 years ago is so stupid. It means we fucking agree. The funny part about the whole thing is that the only match anyone ever brings up is Kurt Angle versus Chris Benoit. You could give that 5 stars. I give it 4 3/4 stars. Now, according to Meltzer, his 5-star matches tend to be reserved for match of the year contenders. Angle, according to Meltzer, came close, which is ridiculous, to receiving the highest marks on some occasions. But the lack of 5-star matches on Meltzer's rating systems should not be interpreted as a knock against the WWE Hall of Famer's overall ability. Quote, I don't know if Kurt ever won a match of the year, and that's the deal. That doesn't mean Kurt's not a fantastic wrestler if he never won match of the year. He got all kinds of matches that have been highly rated throughout his career. It's not about 5-star matches. If you're going to do that, you can count up 4-star matches, and Kurt has a whale of a number of 4-star matches. Of course, Chris Van Vliet taking, Dave to task on the show, and you could tell Dave got very, very defensive about that. But, I mean, again, I don't ever like to question the integrity of a journalist, but my God, I mean, the justification by Dave Meltzer to even say, well, it's 4 3/4, that's just as good. No, it's not. Chris Van Vliet was like, but it's not 5 stars. I just think it's so ridiculous, dude, that people still give so much validity to Meltzer's star ratings when we all know it's bullshit.
Well, I mean, it's a talking point in the business, and I think that's what keeps it going. The fact that there's always kind of something to chime in about in regards to his star rating system. Big ups to Chris Van Vliet, one of the best guys out there in the business, man. I mean, the guy is just absolutely tremendous. One of my favorite guys out there. I mean, Meltzer's star system has always kind of puzzled me. What's the fucking criteria? That's what I want to know. What is the criteria? I really want to know what it is that he critiques, because this is coming from a guy who's never worked a day in his life, never taken a bump, doesn't understand how to call spots, doesn't understand when to call spots, why to call spots, who to call spots for, all this kind of stuff. He doesn't get any of this shit. He thinks that because he's watched it, because he's been around it, because he's talked to wrestlers, because he's had wrestlers that are friends, he has wrestlers that are friends, He thinks that because of that, he has some sort of in as to what a great wrestling match is. Will Ospreay is fantastic, an amazing young wrestler with a lot of potential. I think he needs to do less and make other things mean more. And I think if he does, he's going to unlock another aspect of his game that's going to really take him to a very high level. But there's no fucking way that on his best day, presently constituted, that any of his matches measure up to the best matches of Kurt Angle. I'm fucking sorry, dude. No. It's horseshit. It's horseshit. And it's a lot more of the fodder that these marks they feed off of, and the type of shit that kind of helps them form their shitty little argument, their shitty little senseless argument. You know what I mean? He's feeding into what his subscribers want. He's giving his subscribers what they like, and comments like this, shit like this, is what they like. But I just think that a vast majority of these people don't know what good wrestling is anymore. And I think the dangerous thing about Meltzer is that this star rating system, this shit that he started with these matches and everything, I think that this kind of stuff is dangerous for the future of wrestling. I think that this is going to encourage younger wrestlers not to learn the craft of wrestling, not to understand how to truly work, but it's just going to tell them that, hey, if you do all these fucking moves that the Lucha Brothers do, or that the Young Bucks do, or that Will Ospreay does, or that Kenny Omega does, you're going to be a Wrestler of the Year contender, and you're going to be somebody that's going to go somewhere in the fucking business. And I think that that's bullshit, and I think it's a bad message, and I think that a lot of young wrestlers' careers are going to get cut short by trying to live up to this bullshit false standard that Dave Meltzer has created.
No, absolutely. Listen, you knocked it out of the ballpark completely with that. And I mean, again, if there's a certain element of young workers out there that look at Meltzer and take it seriously, I don't know. I can't imagine. So, and it's just funny to me because when you think about matches, like think about Undertaker and Shawn Michaels in 2009, not the retirement match in 2010, but 2009, I believe that might have gotten 5 stars. And not to say it didn't deserve it, but I mean, the idea that Kurt Angle never got matches like that, or even the idea that, again, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens this year against the Usos, main eventing night 1 of WrestleMania in Los Angeles, that was easily 5 stars, if we're going by that.
Yeah.
But this last Sunday at this time, Meltzer giving Ospreay and Omega like 45 stars out of 5. I mean, that's what it felt like probably. I just think it's so absurd. But again, there's a niche audience that takes Meltzer seriously, and then there's people with common sense and are coherent like you and I, and our very intelligent audience that don't. So it's funny about what triggers Meltzer and how defensive he gets, because how dare anyone? It's almost like what he says. But
he created this shit. That's the fucking problem. That's the thing that gets me. He created this. All right. If you created this, be subject to scrutiny just like anybody else.
Yeah.
On this show, we give our opinions. People can chime in. They could agree. They could disagree. We know what we're saying. We know what's coming out of our mouths. You know what I'm saying? But I just think that, when he did this and he created all this bullshit, and now all of a sudden, because, it's getting a little too hot in the kitchen for him, he wants to back out and he wants to flip it on everybody else and gaslight everybody else. It's fucking bullshit. It's fucking bullshit. That's all.
I agree with you, and it's amazing.
And I respect the guy. I still respect the guy. I respect for what he's meant to the business. I respect for the historian. I respect him for being a historian of professional wrestling. I respect him for what he meant to the boys in the 80s and 90s, helping people get work all over the place. But I just think that somewhere between then and now, his idea of wrestling just got completely warped. Yeah. And I think that it's caused a really bad ripple effect in the business that I think really needs to be eliminated. I really, really do. I think it needs to be eliminated. I think that shit, these trainers, these guys that are grooming this next generation, and I'm using that word loosely, grooming, But these guys that are doing this, that are training these young wrestlers, they need to get it into these young guys' heads that working for a Dave Meltzer rating, that's not fucking being a wrestler, and that's not going to get you far. It's going to get you fucking injured.
I agree. Amen to that. As we're wrapping up here, one more news item. Interesting. Paul Levesque last night during the post-game press conference of Money in the Bank indicated that the last two nights at the O2 Arena were the highest grossing arena events in WWE history. It was the highest grossing. More than 37,000 fans converged at the O2 over the last two evenings. Paul Levesque also putting out some data out there. The impressive achievements of, quote, both the highest grossing arena event and the highest grossing SmackDown being reached in just 2 days comes less than 6 months after the WWE broke their record all-time highest grossing event in Los Angeles for WrestleMania 39. The runaway success of Money in the Bank, as well as the previous three international premium live events, led to, once again, remind us all about the global reach of WWE. He said, quote, if you look at this year alone, 4 of the last 5 premium live events that we've done have all been international destinations. You can look back in the years prior to that, certainly skip the COVID one. Look into the years prior to those, it's not really a common occurrence. Montreal was sold out. Puerto Rico was sold out, record sales. Saudi Arabia was sold out, record sales. And here in London, these past 2 nights, once again, sold out, record sales. It bodes well for us internationally because we are a global company. We intend to remain being a global company because of our reach. Again, listen, not to sort of, be a buzzkill about this, but not a surprise. I think about the attendance. I'm always nervous about gate because, like anything else, dude, tickets just cost more. The idea that, as long as the building's sold out, that I think those are numbers that I'd rather focus on. Yes, the gate matters. The dollar amount matters significantly. But again, what it costs to go watch WWE this Friday at SmackDown at Madison Square Garden certainly costs more than it did 5 years ago and 10 years ago. So again, I'm not trying to be overly analytical, but I think the number we need to focus in on moving forward is, hey, is the building sold out? If it's record sold out, that's what matters. I get it. It's not to be braggadocious, but okay, you want to throw out numbers like dollar values. I get all that. That's important. It's a global company. You're in there to make money. Patrick, I'm just always like, well, let's worry about ticket sales. Like, did the building sell out? Great. That's what matters. The gate and dollar value it's sort of like my pet peeve about movies. Well, up until a certain point, Titanic was the highest grossing. Well, okay, great. But in 1998, when Titanic came out, and, I remember dating my ex-wife and being forced to fucking sit in that theater and watch that movie, and people watching it 4 or 5 times as if fucking Jack wasn't going to die every single time. Woo! Anyway, point is that, yes, what it costs to go watch a movie in 1998 is different than when Avatar came out by the same director in 2009 and whatever else. So I'm always leery about gates because it just costs more to go watch everything today than it did 5-10 years ago. I think we should focus on the building being sold out. That's what matters. But that's me.
Well, never let go, Fernando. Never let go. I'm with you, man. I think now I'm kind of curious, actually. How do you think they break these ticket numbers down? Do you think it's based on the region? Do you think it's based on the country, the economy? Like, what are the variables here that we're taking into account when we're putting together these ticket prices? Because I think there's probably something to that we should kind of analyze. But look, man, WWE, it's a global fucking company. Everybody knows that. They got global stars. They got must-see stars. They capture the attention and the imagination of everywhere they go. Their charitable outreach is fucking bananas. I mean, it's great to see. It's great to see that the business is alive. It's cool to see Triple H implementing this tactic, with how they're booking these events and what they're doing. And just kudos to them and kudos to the WWE and everybody involved with what they're doing. Right now, they're the hottest wrestling product in the world. Can't deny it. Nobody can deny it. If you do, you're a fucking hater, or you live in your parents' basement or something. You're an AEW fan. But it's just amazing. And I really enjoyed both nights. I thought it was quality stuff. The crowd was alive for both nights. And that's the difference when you don't have a fucking 14-hour event. You know what I mean?
No. Listen, again, it's a business, and we understand that dollars and cents matter. Again, this Friday at Madison Square Garden, arguably the mecca, the mecca of professional wrestling, the cathedral, as they say. Listen, if you can afford to go Friday, go. If you can't, it's out of your price range, but that's just the way it is. That's not just professional wrestling. That's a plethora of different forms of entertainment. Go watch a show. Go on tickpick.com and check out Broadway shows in New York. They're just expensive. Go to what you can. If you can't attend, I mean, again, I don't want to say, oh, well, it's just out of your price range, but that's more, I think, of a microcosm of what entertainment is. Not just sports, not just professional wrestling, not just theater, arts, and culture. It's just more expensive. And WWE is going to continue to generate record gate because, again, things are more expensive. But it's not like there's a lack of shortage. It's not like, I mean, I was just looking at tickpick.com right now for Friday. I mean, a lot of the really good seats are sold out. Now, whether or not that's ticket resellers and ticket brokers, that remains to be seen. That building's going to be sold out. It's a SmackDown. Everyone's going to be like literally on pins and needles waiting to see what happens with the bloodline, who's going to cut a promo, who's going to come out, who's going to, whatever. Obviously, a good match. Karrion Kross against AJ Styles, I think, will be this Friday also, I think, on that SmackDown. The Grayson Waller effect segment, I think, will be great. Again, WWE, they're printing money. SummerSlam sold out at Ford Field. We know that later in the year, listen, even the NXT event, the Great American Bash in Texas, I think later this month, is going to, now it's a small arena. It's not like they're in downtown Dallas at the American Airlines Center. They're in a smaller arena, but it's going to be sold out. It's going to be good wrestling, like it always is with NXT. So we'll see. But it's really interesting, though, Pat, because I think that people get very fickle in the marks about, and I was talking about this with Dee off the air before we went on today to record, but it's interesting because this is where fans get fickle about what's going on this summer, right? We have SummerSlam literally 30 days from today. Then we have All In England, which again continues to be a pinnacle of debate about what tickets are being sold, who's attending, how many seats are available. Then the following week, they're in Chicago for All Out at the United Center. Again, it remains to be seen. It's a great time to be a professional wrestling fan because there's a lot of options. And after WWE did so well this weekend in London, we'll see what AEW does at All In coming up that weekend before Labor Day. It's the end of the summer. People are still traveling. Getting to London is, as I was pointing out to Dee, in parts of Western Europe, you can catch a train. You can be in London in a couple of hours.
Yeah.
From Belgium to Spain to Paris. Germany is a little bit, it's longer. It's about a 12-hour train ride. That's a little longer. But the point is that you could see that crowd was hot yesterday in London. They love pro wrestling. They love WWE. Fans that like pro wrestling are going to go watch All In at Wembley. Is it 90,000? Not even. Is it going to be half of that? Probably. I would venture right now, I'll die on a hill on this, 40, maybe 45,000 people, depending on what freebies are given out and stuff like that. But it remains to be seen. It's still a great time to be a pro wrestling fan. There's no short, dude. This week, there's no shortage of pro wrestling to be on. From Monday to Raw to NXT to Dynamite to Impact to SmackDown on Friday to Money in the Bank last night to Collision to those whoever watched it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what it is. It's a great time to be alive if you're a pro wrestling fan. Just enjoy it. Stop being so fickle. I get it. AEW fans get very defensive about like, whoa, we like what we like and don't shit on our parade. We're not shitting your parade. We're just trying to be realistic about what's lacking with your product. And I just think that fans get really fickle. Enrico online, and nothing new though as we're closing up shop here today.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm not surprised at all. You kind of look at Tony Khan's promotional tactics. You kind of see where they're kind of what their itinerary is for these coming months. they're running Chicago a lot. I mean, like, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they do well there. A lot of the other places, I tell you, man, like All In, as of now, as it's been reported from people that own businesses in and around the Wembley area, the target that they're expecting is anywhere between 40 to 45K. Do not let these ticket numbers fucking fool you. If they do get more tickets, and if they do get more people than 40 to 45K,
good for them.
Great. It's awesome, but a lot of that is going to be giveaways.
Yep.
You got to remember. Hold on 1 second. I need to get a drink there real quick. I got the Gatorade gimmick going. The thing we got to remember is that Tony Khan and his family have a Premier League team over there. So Tony Khan's very well connected in London. Fulham play in London. They're one of like fucking 7,000 teams that play in London. And Tony Khan has a good outreach over there. So he's definitely going to get a lot of charity involvement. They're going to have a lot of stuff for the show. But if they get a bigger number, great for them. For me, I just think that at the end of the day, they're going to have 40 to 45,000. That's going to be their target. That's going to be a good number for them. But the fact that they're running Chicago so much, it kind of makes you wonder, man. It kind of worries you a little bit. And it kind of starts to tell you a little bit about what's happening with AEW and where they're at right now. And I don't think that they're in a good place, honestly. I really don't.
They're looking very regional. I mean, listen, 2 weeks from now, we're going to see what that crowd is like at Prudential Center for the Saturday night edition of Collision. We'll see. It's the New York, New Jersey area. It's a Mark area. I think Marks will go. I don't think all 16,000 seats at the Prudential Center, the home of our New Jersey Devils, is going to be sold out. I mean, listen, if it is, great. That's awesome. You want that for a company. But
sure.
to your point about it being regional, listen, that those couple of days after All In England, they're going to be Wednesday Night Dynamite at the Now Arena. I believe they're recording Rampage also at the Now Arena. Saturday Night Collision, the night before All Out, is at United Center, and the following night for All Out is also at the United Center. So it almost look. It's funny how we talk about like, well, the territory days are over. It almost seems like this is becoming a territory. It almost seems like AEW is becoming much more regional than a national company, and that should concern Tony Khan, because I get it. You know, you don't feel a need to. I'm not saying be profitable. I mean, again, I haven't seen what their books yet. I haven't seen what any numbers are per quarter. But you would almost think that, like, hey, they're kind of being very regional and almost like tribal in the sense of like, well, we know what areas of the country work. We can go to California. We can go to LA. We can go to like Northern California, maybe Chicago, Midwest, maybe New Jersey, New York. Who knows? They just announced the Grand Slam will return Wednesday, September 20th at the Arthur Ashe Center in Flushing, which is a fucking hike to get to during the week. And they'll be recording, obviously, Dynamite Live. They'll be recording Rampage right after. So when you leave Arthur Ashe, it's probably Friday to get home.
You can hitchhike home from there, you know.
Yeah, so by the time you get home, it's already Saturday. It's Collision. I don't know where Collision's going to be that weekend.
Probably there. You could stay over, pitch a tent outside. You know,
might as well. You know,
it's like when the Grateful Dead would come to town.
Might as well. And since the Mets aren't in any pennant race, I mean, it'll probably be hardly any traffic to get to Flushing. You know, in horrible. September. So, but Enrico, I'm sorry. Before we call it a week here on this day in pro wrestling history, very interesting date here, July the 2nd. On this day, though, Enrico, in 2001, the main event of WWF's Monday Night Raw at the Tacoma Dome in Tacoma, Washington, featured the first ever WCW match on WWF television. As we all know, just a couple months before, WCW had been bought out by Vince McMahon and the World Wrestling Federation.
Wait. Hold on. Let me try and guess it. Was Buff Bagwell one of the guys in the match?
Correct. Buff Bagwell challenged Booker T for at the time, the coveted WCW World Heavyweight Championship in a match that was unfortunately remembered for all the wrong reasons. Bagwell was wrestling his first match in many months, and had quickly run out of steam.
Did his mom know? That's what I want to know. Did Buff's mom know? Okay.
The crowd was chanting boring and this match sucks throughout. And the loudest cheers came when Stone Cold Steve Austin and Kurt Angle, both heels at the time, attacked Booker T. It was Bagwell's one and only WWF match and was named one of the most awkward matches in WWE history by WWE.com in 2013. You know, I remember that Raw, and it was surreal because, again, just a couple months earlier, Vince had bought out WCW. We were waiting to, you know, I own WCW. And it was really surreal, though, because just a couple months before, obviously, he had bought WCW. We saw the last Nitro, obviously the main event, Sting and Ric Flair for the final time on WCW television. And it was weird, though, man, for those of us, again, suspending disbelief and kayfabe. Oh, wow, like a WCW match on Raw. It was interesting, you know, at that time on this day in 2001. Subsequently, on this day also in 2002.
Acknowledge me.
At a taping of WWE SmackDown in Boston. WWE Hall of Famer Edge and Hulk Hogan teamed up to defeat the team of Billy and Chuck to win the coveted WWE Tag Team titles. It was Hogan's one and only WWE Tag Team Championship reign, and it would be the start of Edge's 8th as a tag team title holder. Interesting, obviously. Also on this day in 2007, the late great Umaga defeated Santino Marella to win the WWE coveted Intercontinental Championship on an episode of Monday Night Raw from Reunion Arena in downtown Dallas, Texas. It was the second time of him winning the IC Championship. Also on this day in pro wrestling history, OVW Saturday Night Special was held in Louisville, Kentucky. Some interesting names, Deonna Purrazzo and Scarlett, names we've come to know in professional wrestling also. And as well as on this day in 2020, Night 2 of AEW's Dynamite Fyter Fest was taped at Daly's Place in Jacksonville, obviously in the middle of the pandemic in northern Florida. We would see Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page defeat Private Party to retain the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Lance Archer would defeat Joey Janela. And in the main event, Le Champion, AEW World Heavyweight Champion Chris Jericho defeated Orange Cassidy after connecting with the Judas Effect and getting the pin. All this, folks, on this day, July the 2nd, all that happened in pro wrestling history.
What's that? What did I?
On this day.
No. I thought, okay, it's going to me now?
Yeah, it's going to you now as we close up shop, man.
Well, you know, just want to say it was great to talk today, to be back on the show with you folks. Obviously, there was a lot of cool stuff going on in wrestling. And obviously, today, the birthday of Bret the Hitman Hart. I got a little song for him. I think you might have heard it before.
Uh-oh.
Let me see.
Here we go.
Let me see if you know. You ever heard of this? What a hit.
Yes.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Bret. Happy birthday, Bret. Just wanted to wish Bret the Hitman Hart a happy birthday. We're probably going to get this audio pulled, and that's the best part of it all. But just a quick shout out and a happy birthday to Bret the Hitman Hart.
Enrico, real quick though, just as a special note for our audience, well wishes, all kidding around aside, to Bret the Hitman Hart. Apparently having to pull out of his birthday celebration at his bar in Calgary this weekend. Not really known yet what health concerns surround Bret the Hitman Hart, but best wishes for a speedy recovery for the Hitman, the two-time WWE Hall of Famer, one of my favorite pro wrestlers of all time, as you can see.
One of my favorite pro wrestlers of all time, too, as well.
That's right. And
not the only one.
Again, some conflicting reports about why he couldn't attend his birthday celebration at his bar in Calgary, but well wishes, speedy recovery to Bret Hart on his birthday, 66 years today, and to many, many more for Calgary's favorite son, I would argue.
Well wishes to the Hitman. Absolutely. Part of the legendary Hart family. Learned his submission hold from his brother Owen, you know, so both amazing talents in the world of wrestling, and cousin to Rowdy Piper, I might add, as well. But yeah, folks, enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your holiday weekend. I'm going to be hanging out with the Munchkins, with the Twins of Evil. We're going to have a grand old time and enjoy the 3rd of July, their birthday. And enjoy the 4th of July, people. The British are coming. And yeah, just don't play with no fucking fireworks. You don't want to end up like that football player that lost his fingers. Fernando, It's been great chatting with you. I love that picture of you and that old woman in the background. You look great in pink. You're pretty in pink. You remind me of Molly Ringwald today. And yeah, just a big thanks to everybody out there. Shout out to my brother Lewis for tuning in. Shout out to everybody that tunes in. Send your messages. Send your love. Fernando, plug your political gimmick. I'll see you when I'm looking at you. Arrivederci, baby.
Arrivederci, Enrico. Folks, he is New Jersey's premier wrestling journalist, Enrico Palazzo, a.k.a. Patrick Vincent Rivera, the PBR superstar. Folks, special programming note. Tomorrow night, normally I do have an edition of Real Talk via Jersey First TV. I will not do the holiday weekend, but we will have an episode this Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern time with David Wildstein, the editor of the New Jersey Globe, the perennial news site in the Garden State for everything about politics and much, much more. Nobody does it better than the New Jersey Globe, folks. And I will have their editor, David Wildstein, on with me live at 7 p.m. for the latest edition of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe via Jersey First TV. By the way, folks, special programming note there, over 11,000 organic views for Real Talk for the month of June via Jersey First TV, whether it be Facebook, obviously on StreamYard, certainly on the Jersey First YouTube page, and also at the Jersey First website, jerseyfirst.org/TV. Click the menu and you'll see all the episodes for Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. Folks, also, again, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Again, as we know, this Tuesday we celebrate the 247th birthday of the good old U.S. of A. as we declared our independence from the tyranny and the monarchy of King George in England. And certainly as we are out this Tuesday, hopefully weather permitting, celebrate safely. Please party responsibly. As Enrico Palazzo said, don't play with fireworks. Don't end up like Jason Pierre-Paul with 6 fingers on both hands. Okay, please be careful and enjoy, obviously, during this holiday weekend. And again, folks, we always want to thank you for tuning in every week to Working the Marks via Famcast Media. Shout out to our amazing producer, executive producer, Dee Rotten. I won't mention his government name. Best of recoveries for him, obviously. His tummy's not doing too well, but he's a trooper for being on with us tonight and producing this show. We can't thank him enough for all of his contributions every single week here on Famcast Media. Folks, if we're talking wrestling, we're doing it every week here with Working the Marks on Famcast Media. I am New Jersey's most handsome and premier journalist, Fernando Uribe, saying, folks, if you can't be good, be bad, baby. Happy 4th, and we'll see you next week here on Working the Marks, brought to you by Famcast Media.
Famcast Media. Bitch.